I'm going to kick off our session, if I may, with a couple of questions which I'm going to expect you to answer. My first question is, how many extraordinary leaders do you know?
3.
3.
4.
4.
2.
2. Any other? 1. Anyone sitting there going, I'm not sure. I don't know any. So I've been asking this question for 15 years. What do you think the average answer I get is? 2. Yes. How do you know that? Yes. So let me ask you another question. How many people do you know are living their extraordinary life? And before you answer that, I'm going to give you some context around the word extraordinary. So what I'm talking about here is people who are mentally and physically well, healthy, right? Energetic, clear, motivated, resilient, spacious. I'm going to say that again, spacious. And actually excited about the future, but also fully present in the now. Not waiting for everything on their to-do list to be ticked off so they can finally breathe or finally go on holiday. It's all going to be okay when I'm on that deck chair. So I'll ask the question again. How many people do you know are living their extraordinary life? One, not many. None. Yeah. So why am I asking? Because these low numbers, they matter. Because if we want a better world, we're going to need better leaders. And if we want to live better lives, we're going to need to lead them better. Yeah? It's my contention that these two things are inextricably linked. The self-knowledge, the self-empowerment, and the self-leadership it takes to create an extraordinary life is exactly the same as it takes to become an extraordinary leader. But here's the challenge. We've never been given the time, the space, or the guidance to understand actually who we are and what kind of life is right for us and what kind of leader, if I'm born to be a leader, what kind of leader am I born to be? What am I here to bring? Nobody in the education system has ever, don't even get me started on that subject, but ever taken the time for us to explore that. So if it's okay with you, that's how I'm going to use our time today. I'm going to give us some time and space to actually explore that. And I'm going to do that by sharing the 3 critical factors that it takes to live an extraordinary life. We're going to look at self-knowledge. Who are you really? Self-empowerment. How do you set yourself up for success? And self-leadership. And I'm going to do that safe in the knowledge that when we focus on ourselves, actually we become better leaders. We become better at leading teams, better at leading our organizations, and a hell of a lot better at leading and creating societies. So let's start. Let's start with self-knowledge. And I'm hoping you've got access to pen and paper or something you can write on. Right, so I have a question for you. The question is, who are you? Time starts now. Tough, right? Okay. Who's feeling courageous? Who's going to share who they are? Here at the back. Lady in the green shirt.
I put a charismatic, passionate individual with pink hair.
I love that. Thank you. A charismatic, courageous individual, was it? With pink, passionate and courageous with pink hair. Who else? Thank you.
A middle-aged woman who loves gardening, dancing, and animals.
Love it. Thank you. Eliza.
I've put mother, daughter, wife, queen.
Oh, and that is so true, right? That is so true. Right, I did this last night with my husband and one of our 5 daughters, and I said, pen and paper, who are you? So my husband wrote, husband, father, lawyer. My daughter wrote, healer, activist, adventurer, carer, community creator. I went, which one has been brought up by me? So isn't it interesting when we go, you know, I'm 30 and I live in Guildford and I'm a production engineer. And actually, I would argue that's not quite enough information if what we really want to do is find out what life is right for us. Who are we? So let's ask the question then, who are we really? And you might not know this, but this is actually who you are. You maybe have better hair, slightly better clothes, I suspect. But within you, you have a vision. And what fascinates me about having done this work now for 25 years is so many people actually can't articulate that. So they might go, well, I want to live in Kent. That seems to be a theme today. I want to live in Kent. I want to have this sort of house, and I maybe want 2.5 kids, and I don't want them to live with me till they're 35. But really, what kind of experience of life do you want? What's important to you, and how do you honour that? Then you have some driving forces, which are the motivators that invisibly sit behind us and actually determine a lot of what we do. You have a set of personal values. Always blows my mind, and Joe and I were talking about the corporate world earlier, where you go in and these organisations, they create their values, they all sit around a table and they make massive posters or sculptures if you're in a particular bank, and they write their values, if they write their values on them, and then they try and force them into people. That's like, why would we even try and do that? You have your own values. Most of us don't know what they are. A value is something that is important to you. That's all it is. Then we have our belief systems, things, thoughts that we've bought into, really. We sadly mistake them as facts a lot of the time, and we wear them like glasses, and they provide our worldview. We have things that put us in our element. Like, you know, when we're in the zone, when things are coming easy. And within all of that, we have a purpose. It might be a tiny, small purpose with a small p, or it might be a life-changing purpose to turn the world on its head by creating better leaders, something like that. Now, the benefit of knowing this about ourselves is that when we know it, we can actually live in alignment with who we are. And actually, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out life's a hell of a lot better when we're living in alignment with who we are. So if I use myself as an example, my number one value is freedom. That rules out a lot of work, right? It's probably why I've been self-employed for so many years. Second value is learning. I could not be in a job where I was not learning all the time. Now, just imagine you put me in a job where I'm not learning and I'm not feeling free. All of a sudden, life doesn't feel so good. Again, if I pick being in my element, so hopefully by the end of this session, you're going to think I have a natural talent for speaking, hopefully. When we're in our element, it's the point at which our natural talents and our passions meet. Now, I love speaking, and I hopefully have a talent for it, but my passion is to speak about how we live an extraordinary life and how we become an extraordinary leader. When those two things cross, I'm in flow. Now, if one of the speakers doesn't turn up this afternoon, Katie goes, would you mind getting up on stage and doing another talk? But this time it's about spreadsheets. All of a sudden, I am not in my element. So just take a moment and think about when you're in your element. It might be challenging, but things are just coming, and how much time do you spend there? So, of course, the whole objective here, guys, is to find out who you are so that you can align to it so life becomes easy. Anyone know why I've got the person standing in a yoga in a tree?
Because it's about balance.
Yes, because when we are, oh blimey, when we are in our tree, we are operating from what I would call core strength. And that's what this is. This is understanding who we are at our core strength. When we do not know who we are and we do not align to who we are, this is how we tend to feel, potentially a bit discombobulated, often very overwhelmed. The number one word that I ask to speak to leaders a lot of the time, and I'll say, how does it feel to be a leader right now? The number one word they say, what do you think?
Challenging.
Overwhelmed. Overwhelming. It's a lot. Challenging is also up there. And this feels like operating from empty. It feels like, is this really what it's all about? So again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where would we rather live from here or from here? Where would we rather our leaders live from? Here. I like doing ballet, right? From here or here. Okay, so that's the first core principle. If you're going to want to go and live your extraordinary life, you have to spend the time to deeply get to know yourself. The second then is self-empowerment, and I see self-empowerment as this incredible task of equipping ourselves to take the brilliant person we met over here, to take that person to the world. And within self-empowerment, there is both the pragmatic and the profound, and it blows my mind how many people don't even do the pragmatic. If you want to be an architect, learn how to design buildings, right? If you want to exercise more, choose an exercise you like and join a community that will encourage you to do the thing you want to do. whole list of pragmatic things that we can do to lead ourselves towards our extraordinary life. And then there's the profound, the deeply, deeply profound. Learning how to secure your own mask first, to look after your own well-being, so that when you show up as a partner, a wife, a husband, a daughter, a mother, whatever it might be, that you are bringing your best self. I did a talk yesterday on well-being and behaviour, relationships within, well-being within relationships. And I was saying, where do you bring all your worst behaviour? Oh, to the people you love most. Interesting choice. Right, so the profound skill of looking after your own well-being, the profound skill of building trust-based, authentic relationships. And I think my most favourite skill of all time is the skill of knowing how to use our own mind. So our minds are like these supersonic power tools we've been given as human beings, right? The problem is nobody's ever shown us how to use them properly. It's like being given an 18 son, daughter, it's your 18th birthday and we've got this incredible supersonic car for you and it can fly and it can go on water, but we're not going to bother with the driving lessons. And that's how our mind is. So when we're actually talking about self-empowerment, we need to think about the things that will make a difference. What difference would it make to you if you could quieten your mind down at will? What kind of difference would that make? Huge, right? We would spend far less time in what I would call thought spirals, overthinking, overstressing. When we learn to use the mind properly, we realize it's like a laptop and we can close the thinking down and actually sit in the place of conscious mind from a place of peace and wisdom, which is where all the most important decisions need to be made. So that's the second point. Self-empower yourself, find out who you are, and then do what you can do like you would if it was your son or daughter to help them. Can't believe they're actually going to interviews though, but actually help them on the path. Help yourself on the path. So what's the third bit? The third element is self-leadership. And do you know, it's absolutely life-changing to know who you are. It is so liberating to empower yourself. But if you don't lead yourself, none of it really matters. So this is the piece that brings it all together. And I see this as ultimately it's taking the choice to become the leader of our lives. And people look at me and go, well, of course I'm the leader of my life. But actually, the truth is we don't live like that. We live as if other people and situations are controlling our lives. And again, I'll use myself as an example. For years, I blamed my level of exhaustion on my overwork. I blamed my overwork on the fact that I was the primary breadwinner in my household. I blamed that on my ex, notice the word ex, husband, right? And that went round and round. Of course I'm exhausted. I have to do everything round here. And by the way, then I have to come home and cook and clean and da-da-da. And what I was actually doing was absolving myself of any responsibility for the choices I was making on a daily basis. So this is a really hard wake-up call. Our experience of life is down to the choices we make on a daily basis. One of my favourite philosophers was a Glaswegian, I was just talking to a lady who was from Glasgow in the loo, a Glaswegian plumber. And he said life was a contact sport. So literally, one event hits us after the other. When we are a self-leader, we know we have a choice of how we react. So when our boss comes to us with another piece of work, or when we're asked to do something we really don't want to do, or when we feel beholden to someone because they're really good at playing the victim and we are really good at playing the rescuer, we remember when we're in a position of self-leadership that we have a choice. And that changes everything. So I have one last question for you before I finish off. And I'd love you to have a think about one thing you're not taking ownership for in your life right now, and the courageous amongst you, just share that. Someone give me an example of something you're not taking ownership in your life for right now. Katie.
I would say I'm not taking ownership for my own well-being.
Lovely, not lovely. I'm actually really sorry for you, but great example. What's the story you're telling yourself that is keeping you in that behaviour?
That I don't have enough time.
Right. Anyone ever been there? And what would it look like if you stepped fully into self-leadership around that topic?
Well, I would actually go back to the advice that Joe gave me 18 months ago, and
Which you haven't taken.
I did really well.
You did.
But you know, I run my own company. I have a lot of flexibility. So me saying I don't have enough time to do things is, you know, is completely untrue. And Joe taught me to plan my exercise at the beginning of the week and make it like a total non-conditional. And it was life-changing while I did it.
And why did you stop? Because you told yourself a different story, right?
Yeah.
What was the story you told yourself when you stopped?
That I was too busy.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting how we can fall back into it? Self-leadership isn't a one decision, right? You don't just go, yeah, I'm going to be the leader of my life. You actually have to make that decision every single day, because every day you're going to be faced with a whole load of reasons to make that excuse. So, thank you. My initial aim for this slot today was to share with you the 3 critical elements of leading an extraordinary life. But I've got to tell you, I think if I'm honest with myself, my real aim was to inspire you to go and do something about that. I'm not going to pretend that the journey is straightforward. I've been in this world for 25, 30 years, and I'm still learning every single day, and I still make commitments that I then forget, right? But what I am going to tell you is the path is clear. You need to know yourself, you need to empower yourself, and you need to take the decision to lead yourself every single day. And when you do that, genuinely, things change. Carl Jung famously said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you really are." I think the joy of a lifetime is to live from that place. Now that's worth fighting for, right? That's really exciting.